What's up, everybody? Sorry I'm going live again. I just wanted to sort of play the eBay webinar on promoted listings and then just give some feedback because I'd like to try these promoted listings if possible. I know they're introducing a single quantity, so I wanted to see how it works. So I'm just going to play it in the background, the actual webinar from eBay, and see if we can learn something together. And then I'm going to post a video of me trying to create some of these promoted listings to see what's going on. So let me know in the chat if you can hear the video, but I'm going to play it and let's see if it works. Let me know if you guys can see this. Let's see. What's up, Glenn? All right.
Hoping that by the end of the...
Let's see. Can you guys see my screen? If you can, then we'll go ahead. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and play this and see what we can learn from eBay. Let's see if you guys can actually hear. Let me know if you can hear Griff talking in the background.
Hoping that by the end of the hour, you'll be convinced to try it and see how it will work for you. The eBay for Business blog, which you can find on our community pages, will be having a post about Promotions Manager very soon. It's coming soon. And if you find that your questions that you've asked today aren't being answered or we didn't have time for them, you can always you'll always be able to re-ask them there. Also, I hope you're watching television, because if you are, you may have caught some of the cool new eBay brand commercials that have been up. They've been running now for at least a week or so. They're really driving traffic. So this is an excellent time to consider how you're going to offer your promotions to entice buyers to buy from you. After all, that's what it's all about, is getting people to buy your stuff. So without further ado, let's start.
Real quick, this is just a live stream from eBay earlier on promoted listings. It's from their headquarters. That's where this is from.
Again, I'm Griff. I've been in eBay for a while. I got lots of titles. But Adi and Leave will be handling most of the content and answering your questions today. You can ask questions, by the way, at any time. We'll be getting to the questions in the last 15 minutes or so of our presentation. And if we don't get to all of your questions, we urge you to check out the eBay for Business blog. Once that post is up, you'll be able to ask them there. So the whole idea of promotions and the promotions tool, which if you've been following, it's been really cool because the Promotions Manager tool has been evolving over time and has gotten even better. Right. And that's based on feedback, right? Mm-hmm. So the feedback that you guys actually send to the team, and in this case to either Adi or Leave, actually gets implemented. So you'll notice that if you haven't looked at the tool for a while, it's really been improved, especially the dashboard and especially the way some of the offers in setting them up are presented to you, so it makes more sense. So let's talk right off, what is Promotion Manager? And Adi, I'll go right to you. So for someone who's never heard of Promotions Manager, what is it?
So Griff, the way I like to think about Promotions Manager specifically is it's a tool. It's a tool that lets sellers create custom offers, right? And these are the kind of offers that help incentivize a buyer to find value in what the seller is offering, and two, ideally get the buyer to spend more with the seller or buy more items.
Spending more, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's it's been around in retail practice for a very long time, right?
Sure, yeah.
We all probably at some point bought with a deal, right? With a special sale, special offer, a special deal. This is essentially a tool that gives that same kind of capability to our eBay sellers as well.
Yeah, I know that for example, if I'm on eBay or any website online where I'm buying, if they've got one of where you get a discount for buying more, like I was just on a website that we won't talk about, but I was buying granola. Okay. And if I bought one box, it was one price. If I bought 10 boxes, the discount was so deep that I thought I have to get 10 boxes. Right. This is the same sort of thought behind this.
Exactly. So really what it is you want to give your buyers a reason to spend more money in your store.
Exactly.
Right. Spend more money, buy more things from you. And again, and we'll get into all of this in more detail as we go along, but this really applies across categories, right? So, you might have looked at the granola, right?
I did.
A lot of our sellers, especially some of our, our older eBay sellers, sell in the collectibles category. right? It works there as well. It works in fashion. It works in electronics.
Sure, yeah.
It works in home and garden. It works across categories. And so we'll get into all of this in more detail. It's one of those tools that adds a lot of value to our sellers, and we've seen great success with the ones that are already using it.
Great. So that's an outline of what Promotions Manager can do. Let's go into a little deep a dive here, and let's talk specifically about the one that I think is the most popular, right? And we're talking about order discounts. Mm-hmm. And order discounts is a very simple concept. I think it's very easy for sellers to understand, but let's go over this a little bit. So first, why create these promotions? So what's the data tell us?
So like I mentioned, right? One of the things is this is retail practice today, right? And one of the big changes that's happened, particularly in the US in the last couple of years, is buyers have become very promotion conscious, right? Very value conscious, and they're looking for deals. In fact, the majority of buyers, both online and offline today, are looking for deals and typically will not shop until they actually find that deal, right? So that's one huge driver. The second one, and this is specifically what we've seen on eBay's with our sellers, sellers that use promotions for the first time, see up to like 11% increase in sales.
Is that an average?
That's typically an average across a lot of sellers.
That's a big jump.
That's a huge jump.
Are you sure that's accurate?
It is accurate. And we've looked at the data, and it's fantastic.
Real quick, guys, I just think it's interesting because I'm running right now in my store, buy 3, get 10% off, and I've had multiple people shop through my store and buy 3 things to get that additional discount. So I do think it actually does work. But let's see what they say about it.
Especially for the sellers that have never used this before, right? Because they see the results immediately.
Yeah.
And even with sellers that have used this before, typically what they've done is they've gone back, they've assessed their campaigns, they've seen what works, what doesn't work, and they've gone back and improved those. And they've also seen a jump, right? So that's the second reason. And then, finally, one of the big reasons is, and we get into a little bit of this in detail as well. When you put an item on promotion, really what it does is it makes your item stand out. You own more of that real estate on the view item page, right? So on the view item page, you get this big, bold banner which sits above your listing. Again, basically calling attention to what you have to offer. And right below the main listing, you have this additional banner right down there.
It's like a bar.
It's a little bar with up to 4 other items from your store.
If you have a promotion.
If you have a promotion, right?
Because if you don't have a promotion.
If you don't have a promotion, then, well, I mean, as eBay, we definitely want shoppers to find what they're looking for.
Exactly.
So, we might end up showing another module with similar items to your main item, but potentially from other sellers.
Not necessarily from you.
Exactly. So again, this is one of the things that sellers love about creating promotions, is because they own more of the real estate on the view item page. You basically get like this full coverage and expanded, look and feel on the view item page, which is fantastic. So I think all 3 of these are really strong reasons for why sellers should consider this.
So we want to convert browsers into buyers. I see this as a seller. I know I get a lot of browsers. You can tell by the page views and people who are watching, but that doesn't necessarily always mean sales. And I was thinking, what can I do to help get these people who are obviously looking at my items to actually purchase them rather than just look or watch or walk away?
Yeah, so usually, think about it like this, right? It's that little bit of added incentive, right? Just like you said with the granola, right? You might have found that granola on that particular site from that seller at a good price, and you were thinking, well, this is good. Should I buy it now? Should I not buy it now, right? The opportunity to say, you know what, if I buy more of these, I'm going to get a bigger discount. That was that incentive you needed.
Oh, that's all I needed.
Right?
Now
exactly.
I have more granola than I know what to do with. So.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that a lot of sellers have actually seen with promotions, right? They actually get buyers to take that additional step. And very often, look, it's buyers that might already know that they want to buy something, right? Yeah. What they may not realize is, hey, you know what? I'm looking to buy one of these potentially, but if there's a really good deal and I can get 2 for a steal, I'll buy the second one as well, right? And now as a seller, what you've seen is you have seen people buying more items from you. Your average cart size, your average basket size has basically gone up, right? And the average people are spending in your store, or your average order value, has also gone up, right?
That's what we're looking for. Leave. So do we actually study buyer behavior beyond just the data to see how they react to a promotion? And if we do, what do we find?
At the promotion level, we find that buyers do actually buy more on average when there's a promotion on, when you're offering a discount, whether it be on the an order discount
Sure.
with the spend or quantity threshold and the percentage off or dollar off, but also the shipping discounts as well. So if you need to spend a particular amount to get maybe free expedited shipping, that's going to help.
Yeah, that's a common practice you see across the internet. Whenever you're looking, if you spend $45, you get free shipping. And I know there's a lot of sellers who are kind of resistant to free shipping item to item because they were afraid this could end up eating into their bottom line. But this is a way of providing an incentive and some control to the seller, because they can control when is it that free shipping is going to kick in, and it's at a point where I know the quantity that they're purchasing, I know I can easily cover this shipping in maybe a flat rate box or something.
And of course, the difference between sending 1 box of granola and 10 boxes of granola,
Yes,
that does help.
it does help a lot. Help me big time. So I should have gone through these slides. I just wanted to while we were talking. But again, this does help. A promotion does help increase awareness of your items. It does incentivize buyers to buy, as both Adi and Leave have told us.
Yeah, all the images you're basically seeing in your screen are just essentially validation of what I was speaking to before, right? Which is essentially, as a seller now, you get some additional call outs basically for your items, right? So when you create a promotion, for example, if it's a good promotion, we have an automatic algorithm in the background that determines if it's a good promotion. And if it is, you get additional functionality like actually showing the promotion next to your listing on the search results page.
Oh,
now it won't show for every listing. It won't show for every promotion that a seller creates. It shows for promotions that basically eBay determines are good ones.
good ones.
And how do we determine a good promotion? It's things like, for example, how many times is that promotion being actually used by buyers? That's always a good indication, right? If it's a good promotion, very often you'll see engagement, you see buyer engagement, right? We also look at things like, for example, the discount that's being applied, right? Now, if you're giving a 1% discount, maybe not such a hot deal, right? Depending on what you're selling, maybe not such a hot deal.
Do people actually give 1% discount?
Yeah, I mean, we give you a lot of flexibility.
Oh.
This is kind of interesting because I have been offering marking my stuff up and marking it down like 50%. And I've been having more sell-through rate than doing a markdown, let's say 30%. But I'm marking the items up beforehand, then marking them down. I've had definitely an increase in sales, moving to a 50% sale, even though my pricing is essentially the same. So I wonder if the algorithm they're talking about right now picks up percentage of sale off versus the actual conversion. We'll find out.
What you can create. So sellers have traditionally created discounts across the range.
Right.
But now, for example, if you're buying let's say fashion items, let's say clothes, right? A 20% discount, 25% discount is a very normal, typical discount, right?
It's a big one, yeah.
And that's the kind that actually gets buyers to interact with you and buy from you. So that might end up being a good one. But if you did a 1% discount on T-shirts, for example, or clothes, maybe not such a good one.
Oh, I'm going to save 20 cents. Woo!
Right, exactly. And so the point is, at that point, that's kind of how the algo basically works and understands if it's a good one or a bad one. So you get the extra exposure in search. And then when you come to the view item page, which is what you're showing on the screen, is again, we're showing obviously. I think the previous image showed the banner right above the main listing.
Yeah, with this one here.
This one here, yeah, exactly. Where you're actually calling out the offer in big and bold letters right above the main image, and then in the next screen, right below, you're actually getting.
Oh yeah, real quick on that same topic Lynn's bringing up. If you guys shop at the outlets ever, which I'm starting to do more and more of, they actually artificially mark their items up to offer a greater discount. I actually think it's illegal to do that, or I don't understand the exact methodology. But for example, on a pair of Gucci sneakers, it'll say at the outlet, MSRP $894, 75% off. But then if you peel the outlet sticker off, below that it says the retail is only $5.99 on that same item. So they marked the item up $300 and then discounted it at $75 or 75% off to make it look more dramatic. I don't know if that's legal, but they do that. I mean, a lot of outlets artificially mark up items before they offer like a larger percentage off. I think it works though, because when you see 75% off, it gets you more excited.
This entire module, basically, which is completely owned by you, and it's showing the primary item, and it's showing, in this case, 3 other items, but it can show up to 4 other items from your offer that are relevant, right?
Right, and so this promotion is actually providing more real estate on the item page for the seller. Who's
Exactly. So sellers love this because, you know, they get more control, more ownership of that view item page. Right? It's basically their items. It's their own best-selling items that show up on that page.
Cool. So let's talk about the offer types that are that we're actually focusing on for this particular webinar. Who wants to address these? Okay, Lee.
I just love the order discount offer type. It's fantastic. It's got so much flexibility in it.
Yes.
You've got, as we talked about before, as a seller, you get to pick either the quantity or the spend value that you want buyers to meet, the threshold you need them to meet before you're going to give them the discount. So it's got that little bit of gamification to it. You get to set how much discount they're going to get. I mean, we've got 13 different types of offer that you can configure.
Just under the order discount?
Just under the order discount.
Wow. And this is the most popular right now among
by
sellers.
Far. Amongst sellers and amongst buyers.
Oh, amongst buyers too. That's important. So it's probably the most effective of all of the options.
Yeah.
Which is a good reason to focus on it.
Absolutely. And if I can add just one quick thing to what Lee was saying, if you think about it, right, we've kind of broken these out into 3 buckets, into 3 simple to understand buckets, right? Okay. You have spend offers, right, and as the name suggests, their intent is to basically get shoppers to spend more with you, right? So the metric as a seller that you're trying to influence is your average order value or your average transaction value, basically the same thing. The idea is that if you were to look back, let's say, at your last 200 transactions, and for example, you sell, let's say, fashion, right? Yeah. And you notice that people are spending on average $60 per order with you, right? You might want to say, hey, you know what? I want to try and increase that. I want to get people to spend maybe $80 with me, right? So that's the time when you might think of doing an offer like, spend 100, save 20%, right? Oh, so okay, now what you're doing is the average buyer that's spending $60 might look at that and say, hey, you know what? I'm already buying so much, I'm spending $60. If I were to buy these couple of more things, which maybe I don't need today, maybe I need them a month from now, but if I bought them now, I get that extra 20% off, and effectively I'm only spending $20 more, which is a total of 80 versus 60, and I'm getting all of this extra stuff, right? That's how a lot of buyers approach it, and that's how they engage with it.
Yeah, I know.
So that, again, is the value of the spend type offers, right? When you look at the quantity type offers, right, the cool thing about them is you're basically trying to influence your average cart size or your average basket size, right?
Right, so if there's 3 items, you want to put 4 or 5 items.
That's correct. So for a lot of our sellers on eBay, the average cart size is actually very close to 1, which means when someone buys something from you, they're typically buying 1 item.
And not putting other things
into their cart. Now, the point is that is something that a lot of sellers have told us they want to change, right?
Sure.
Think about when you go to buy, outside in the physical world, right? Very likely, if you're buying from a retail outlet, from a clothing store, right? You might go in there to buy, maybe 1 thing. You might very likely buy, maybe a couple of shirts. I don't know, like some pants to go with those, etc. But the point is that we're not seeing the same kind of engagement. A lot of our sellers aren't seeing an engagement on eBay, because it's traditionally been okay to just sell that 1 item and go away and leave the buyer. But now we're trying to say, hey, what if you change the average cart size, right? Give the buyer an incentive to actually buy 1 more item from you or 2 more items from you. So the way to approach that, again, very similar to the spend offer, is look back at your last 200 transactions.
Do you guys ever have people that buy like a hair dryer and then a dress shirt and then dress pants? Because it's like when you go into the real world, like you're talking about, when I go to Costco, I buy items, more than one item in my cart, but it's not related. Like I don't get 3 different kinds of bread. I just get one kind of bread and then, you know, the other stuff with it. So it's not really related. I don't know if there was a cross store discount. Like let's say I'll offer a discount if, I don't know if there's a group promotion, as in like different stores, a promotion, and eBay does that. Like if they spend $75 on eBay, they can group yours in and give a discount on all of it that comes out of their fees. I don't know how they would do that, because I just don't think that often, unless you're selling the exact same item. Like I will sell 3 dress shirts in the same order, but I don't know if you can do it so you can get like 3 random items if people can easily sort. But I guess that's why we would want to have store categories so people can search easily.
And typically you'll get a sense of, okay, you know, I'm seeing an average cart size of maybe 1 item or maybe 1.5 items, right? At that point, you know that there is this incentive that people are looking for potentially to go to the next level. So maybe you could create an offer which says, you know, buy 2 items from me and I'll give you an extra 10% off or 20% off, right? So that's how, you know, sellers need to start thinking about these offers, right? So for instance, if your typical cart size is 1 item, that's what people are basically buying 1 item from you, and you create an offer which says, you know, buy 5, get 20% off, well, you're probably not going to see a lot of luck with that, because people are traditionally or typically not buying from 5 items from you. So you might be more, you know, effective if you went to the next logical step, which is you're seeing a cart size of 1, try for an offer which incentivizes them to buy 2 things. Right? That's how, you know, sellers should be looking at this. And, you know, and the BOGO offer is just another type, essentially, of a quantity-based offer. That's the buy 1, get 1. Right?
Get 1 free, get 1 for 50%.
Exactly.
It's like what the Skechers store does here in San Jose, where you can go in and buy a pair and you get the second pair for 50% off.
Exactly. And what they're basically doing is they're saying, look, you're already buying 1 thing. If you buy the second item, we'll give you a little bit of an incentive to do that, right? And so Skechers probably, in this case, or any other shoe store, sees an increase in their average cart size.
Oh, yes, and they price accordingly.
And they price accordingly, right? And the really cool thing the BOGO offers work really well from both a buyer perspective and a seller perspective, right? From a seller perspective, look, you're saying, let's say, buy 1, get 1, 50% off, right? 50% sounds huge, sounds like a big, big number, right?
Does, yeah.
Buyers love that.
I love it too.
But effectively what you're doing is you're only giving 50% on 1 of those items.
Not both.
Not both, just 1 of the items.
So technically it's only 25%.
At best it's 25% off, because the way the
don't
BOGO,
you just love the maths?
yeah, it's fantastic, right? So the way the offer is set up is that the 50% applies on the lower of the 2 priced items. So if they're both the same price, then yes, effectively it's a 25% discount.
Right.
Otherwise, it's potentially even less.
So if they buy something for 50, and then they purchase a second one that's 40, they're getting the 25% off on the 40.
The 50% off on the 40.
Right. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
It's clever. Shall we move ahead?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about this per category, based on what we know, I assume, and what we see sellers do that's effective and not so effective. Who wants to outline this?
Oh, I think fashion is you.
Fashion, yes, he's definitely fashion.
Sure. Again, you know, we were just talking about this, right?
Yeah.
So shoes is a great example of this, right? You know,
Yeah.
the buy 1, get 1 offers work really well for fashion. Whether it's shoes, it's, you know, t-shirts, it's shirts, etc. Right? And we've seen a lot of luck with that. So, you know, either the buy 1, get 1 free, or buy 1, get 1 50% off. All of these types of offers appear to work really well across sellers on eBay. Now the question.
Well, no, I'm just realizing when you're saying this, I buy a lot of clothing on eBay, and I'm surprised at how many times when I buy a pair of shoes, and I got a pair of new shoes on that I bought from a wonderful eBay seller. I would have bought 2 of these because I know they're a dwindling supply, but he didn't have any incentive for me to buy 2.
Didn't have a deal.
He did not have a deal. You should have had a deal. I would have bought 2 pairs.
maybe 3.
And you know, one of the challenges I think a lot of our sellers have when they think about this is is the first thing they go to is margins, right? It's going to impact my margins. Now, you know, that's I would think.
Real quick, guys, kind of interesting. Sometimes when I have a combined order, it bumps it out of first class. So I have to pay priority, and then it's, you know, even on like an 8-ounce item, you guys know is $2.77 to ship, but a 16-ounce item is $4.30. But then once you get over, now you're in a flat rate envelope, which is $5.75 or $5.95. So you're looking at, if it goes from, let's say, 9 ounces to 17 ounces, 1 pound, 1 ounce, you're looking at twice the shipping cost. So you're actually spending more on shipping, and then also potentially offering a discount on the second item. It's a little bit complicated to try to offer a first class item with a combined shipping discount. I don't know if you guys have this issue, but definitely, since I sell a lot of clothing, combined discounts are sometimes interesting. If somebody gets 3 items, it's definitely not first class.
Think of that as, it's a very real concern that our sellers have, right? But when you start thinking about your business at scale, right, what you're doing potentially by giving up margins, you might be more than making up in volumes.
Right. It's a balance there.
Exactly. So and obviously this is going to depend on each seller's business. Everyone's business is different. What they sell is different. The margins are different. But typically the idea is you give a little on your margins, but you more than make up for it from increased volume.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So that's what typically my answer for a lot of sellers that have this concern.
And then, especially in fashion, is also the loyalty piece. So
What is that? How do you mean?
So I mean, if I buy shoes online, I'm going to buy a brand I know or from a seller
Oh,
I
yes.
know.
No, that's true. Yeah.
So it's a reason for me to go back if the seller had a discount on the shoes and I wanted to buy 2 pairs. I might go back to that same seller again to see what sort of bargains and discounts they've got.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And a lot of our buyers are like that, right? So once they found a seller that they like, they tend to stick with that seller for that particular kind of item, right? Now, the point is, let's take the case of shoes, right? The seller that you bought your shoes from, very likely, if you're happy, you will go back and buy more from that seller, right?
I would. I'd love to get a deal for my loyalty.
And if the seller's listening, I hope you will create a deal.
There are these olive green Skechers, and they're like really comfortable. Here's one of them. They've got memory foam, and for someone with my joint problems, these shoes are brilliant. I just want to buy more, but I want to get.
But you want a deal, and I think that's perfectly legitimate.
Exactly.
And a lot of our sellers will have the same kind of feedback from their buyers, saying, "Hey, listen, we are regular, we are loyal buyers from you, but how about doing something for us, from once in a while?"
Yeah.
Right. And this is a great way to show those buyers that you are actually valuing their business.
And we should point out that because you can control the numbers, the percentages, and the amounts, that ultimately, although the buyer loves it, it's the seller who's the winner. Because if your goal is to increase cart size, spend, or the number of items sold of the same item, this is effective. This works.
It benefits both, right? It benefits the seller. It benefits the buyer. It's one of these things that's good for the overall marketplace, right?
We love it.
I do want to mention one more thing as we move off, which is on this page in terms of the tips, right?
Yeah. So you've got popular offers, and you get stuff that doesn't work that you see people doing.
Right. We have one of the weaker offers, like buy 5, get 1 free on purses, right? Now, that's typically most average buyers are not going to be buying, 5, handbags at one time, right? So creating an offer like that is probably not going to have a lot of connect with buyers, essentially, and it's not going to be a successful offer.
Right.
So again, this goes back to the seller understanding their own business, looking back at the last 200 transactions, seeing what the trends are, and then trying to decide based off of those. Right, that's usually a good practice. The tips that I do want to say is, and I think Lee mentioned this as well, is it's really important in any category, not just in fashion, but any category, to try and curate your offers as best as possible. Right.
Right. So that they're relevant. Right.
They're relevant. So for example, in the case of the shoes you're wearing,
yes,
right?
These olive green Skechers. Which I love the second pair.
So
size 11, medium width.
for example, the idea would be that, you know, maybe the seller could create an offer only on other Skechers, right? So that when you're shopping, you know, at least you're seeing other relevant items. So let's say you know that you like Skechers and you're looking for other pairs of Skechers. There's no point showing you, you know, athletic shoes from another brand, or, you know, or like, you know, hiking boots from another brand.
Not gonna buy them.
And definitely one of the other things that I've seen a lot of sellers make mistakes on is, you know, they'll throw their entire category into the promo, which works in some cases, but in the case of fashion, the challenge is, you know, you have this thing between men's shoes and women's shoes, right? So you want to make sure that if you're doing a promo and let's say the person lands on a certain kind of women's shoes, that you're showing them other women's shoes and not men's shoes, for example. Or if you're landing on women's athletic shoes, show them other women's athletic shoes. Don't show them potentially, you know, a different kind of shoe.
Right.
Right? That's very important. And if you have better curated promotions, what we've seen is the conversion on those is much, much better than on promotions that have no curation at all.
So
limited curation.
That's a great tip right off. So if you're already using this tool and you're not satisfied with the rate of sales that it's bringing, make sure that you're not guilty of what Adi just said, where you're throwing all your inventory without curating it into a promotion, and the items are not necessarily connected in any way.
And I just want to again mention that it is a slam dunk. This is fashion is one of those categories that works really, really well.
Oh, I could see, yeah. Well, it would. Who wants to buy one pair of socks when you can buy a lot of them, right? But home and garden is another category, another one that I like to shop in a lot. I do see in my travels, this is a category where the sellers are more effective in how they promote items. And it is, in my experience as a buyer, I have been incentivized to buy more because of it. So let's talk a little bit about this category. Who wants to cover this one? Either
I can speak to it and leave, you know, feel free to step in, you know, whenever.
You can interrupt us whenever you like.
Whenever you want.
Because we just tend to go on and on and on. So.
And you know, again, one of the things with home and garden right now, it's one of those categories that even though we haven't mentioned it here, actually works really well with spend-based offers.
Yeah.
Again, right? So, for example, you know, there might be, you know, you're looking at what looks to be a picture of a grill, right? Mm-hmm. When you buy a grill, you very likely need to buy a couple of things to go with that grill.
The brush.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And we've all been in that situation where, for example, let's say we're buying a new grill, we want to get a couple of things to go with that grill.
Right.
Now, tongs. It makes sense to say, you know what, let's put all of those items someone might actually buy when they buy this grill together into one promotion, right? Where you say, let's say the average price for your grills is, I'm making up a number, let's say $250 is the average price for a grill, right? But when you add on the average other accessory, like the brush and stuff like that, maybe that offer, actually, that price goes to about $300.
Also, I meet once a month with the local Bay Area resellers, and sometimes they meet actually at eBay headquarters, and Griff is the one that leads the meeting. So it's very cool so if you guys send me questions, I can ask these guys directly because they're there, and if they make changes, then we can have like a direct input into the people at eBay, which is pretty cool.
Right? Or maybe more than 300. So maybe that's what you can try and do. You can say, hey, you know what? I know people typically come and buy a grill and they buy one item. Maybe I do a spend offer on this where I say, hey, you know what? If you spend $350, I will give you 10% off or 15% off or 20% off, right? And at that point now, when I'm buying the grill and I see that message, what I'm thinking is, well, look, I'm spending $250 anyway, right? If I were to spend, and I need these brushes anyway, let me just buy the brushes from this seller.
Yeah, get it out of the way.
In the same box, right. In the same delivery, and get the added value of that promotion.
Makes sense.
Right? So that's the way sellers need to start thinking about this, right? It's, you know, don't just create an offer for the sake of creating an offer. Try and be a little strategic about this.
Yes.
And that's what we've seen with the sellers that have done this in a strategic way, that have really gone back and looked at their business and tried to approach this not as like a one-off thing, but really as a very proactive retail strategy, have been the most successful.
Okay, I get it. What are the tips for this particular page here? Are they a little different?
It's again, like what I was mentioning right now, and Lee, go ahead.
Theming. So if you're working on a project, you're either remodeling your bathroom or you've got the 4th of July barbecue coming up.
I do actually.
Well, nice new shiny grill for
I
that.
could use that. It's nice. I love the red.
So yeah, so it's like you said, create a theme around the offer, right? So, you know, we have an example here of remodeling a bathroom, right? When you remodel a bathroom, if you've ever done that, it actually requires like 20 different things to get it done, right? And so if you were to give, you know, buyers one place where they could go and find everything and give them that incentive, saying, listen, if you buy all of these things you need from me, I will throw in a deal, right? You have the capability with this tool to do exactly that, right? That's the value.
I'm thinking if I might want to get some 4th of July bunting to hang up around the barbecue. So that would make it, those wouldn't seem to be related. But a barbecue grill and some patriotic bunting, you know, that swags, that would be perfect.
Absolutely.
I saw it at Cracker Barrel in Tennessee and I had to have it. Electronics and technology is our third category. Who wants to take this one? Talk about it a little bit. Leave?
So, yeah, electronics are fantastic. You've got
we see
new
this
electronics
a lot,
coming out all the time. I think it's one of our highest sell-through categories on eBay. And there are a lot of great promotions that work well with it. One of the things we hear in this category is that, you know, the margins can be really, really small. So this is where things like the BOGO offers really come into play with the second or third items, think laptops. You know, you don't just need a laptop, you need the cables that will plug it into the external monitor, you need the mouse, you need the laptop bag, all of these things that you can group in together.
And again, I think that the weak offer examples on this are pretty self-explanatory at this point. You know, if you're too timid in your offer, for example, offering 5% off when you buy 3 or more TVs, that's just not compelling. 5% isn't going to get me to really think about, I'm going to tend to, if I really need 3 TVs, I'm thinking I might go and look for other sellers who might have the same TV for a little less. Because if I know I can get 5% off to you, maybe I can save 10% by spreading this around among other sellers. And as a seller, if I thought that's how a buyer was thinking, no, I want you to buy them from me. Right. So that I can see how that would not be very effective.
Yeah, you know, and I think you hit on a very crucial point, right? A lot of our sellers need to put themselves in the buyer's shoe.
Exactly.
Right? And say, you know what? Will a buyer actually find this? You know, if I was in the buyer's shoes and I saw this offer, would it incentivize me to just go ahead and purchase, right?
Sure.
And very often that's the simplest sanity check to see if you've created a good offer or a bad one, right? If you think it's a bit in a gray zone of whether it's a good offer or not, it's probably not a good offer at that point.
A timid offer,
right? A timid offer, right? Right, exactly.
What kind of test?
The would I buy it?
Oh, the would I buy it?
The would I buy it test,
Or
right?
the newly named granola test.
The granola test, oh yeah. I got it covered full of granola.
Yeah. The other thing that I think, you know, is, and here's a tip on this for electronics and technology. Now, a lot of our sellers are today already using markdowns, right?
Markdown, which is a separate tool now, at least.
That's correct. So it's a tool that lets them do a very simple price reduction, right? It's a price reduction, and you get the benefit on the view item page of this nice labeling where you show someone the old price. You show a shopper the old price, the was price.
Strike through.
There's a strike through it, and then you show them the now price, the new price, right? And buyers love this because they're like, okay, this is great value I'm getting on this. Now, what we always encourage sellers to do is say, you know what, you're doing this anyway. Let's say you're doing this on a bunch of electronics items. Let's say you've got this whole stash of, you know, last year's laptops, right?
Right.
Perfectly brand new, good working condition, but the fact is they're 2016 laptops, right?
Yeah.
So they're probably not going to command the same kind of premium as a 2017 laptop does. Now, in that case, you typically would have just marked them down by X%, you know, whatever, 15, 20, 30%. What we're saying is go the extra step and include them in a sale event as well, right? A sale event is a type of promotion that's part of like Promotions Manager, where you can just take a bunch of these markdown items, throw them into the sale event. Now, the benefit you get as a seller is you once again get that badging on the view item page, which we showed you earlier on. So you get the banner right above, the big message right above the main image on the view item page. And again, just below the listing, you actually get this module, you get this little strip showing other items that are part of the offer. So let's say you're doing it on laptops, you could have your primary laptop and you could say, hey, save up to 25% on my laptops, on my 2016 laptops. And if a buyer was looking, and for whatever reason, let's say they weren't interested in the main item, in the 3 items below, they might actually find something that's relevant to them, or that piques their interest.
And I can think of an example right now. If you're, for example, if you're a seller of Apple computers, and you have some of the most recent generation iMacs that are brand new, if you've been paying attention, Apple's developer conference is happening right now in San Jose this week, and they announced earlier this week, either on Monday or Tuesday, I can't remember, they have a brand new line of iMacs coming out, and they haven't really updated those. So if you have old stock, this is the perfect time to discount it this way to get rid of it.
That's right.
And it's actually a good thing when a company like Apple comes out with new computers, because now people will be searching for deals on. They're not old machines, but they're not this particular generation. That's right. I know I do that.
As I said, it is extra effort. So you've got to do the marking down through Markdown Manager and then create the sale event. But it's really worth it for sellers to get that extra exposure.
And I assume that we're thinking of how in the future we can make that easier, right?
I assume we are.
I assume as well. We couldn't possibly say any more than that.
We couldn't.
Okay, good. Let's go to collectibles. A lot of our watchers right now, sellers watching this, either selling collectibles or buying collectibles. So this should be of interest to them.
Yeah.
A lot of our sellers think that because in collectibles you're often selling one-of-a-kind items, that this isn't going to work as well for them. But that's just not the case, because you're not selling one-of-a-kind, you're selling multiple. So on the slide we see baseball cards.
Yeah, very a good example.
And how many collectors do you know who've only bought one baseball card ever?
They wouldn't be a collector, would they?
No, they wouldn't.
No, exactly. I think that hits in on that.
I just want to bring up this point that the travel guy had mentioned, which is that if you buy items that a specific demographic will buy, there's less price sensitivity. Meaning, like if you're selling golf equipment, brand new with tags, and you're looking for people that have more expendable money to spend because they have time to golf, they're buying more premium items, and for them, it's more about time. You may actually want to provide expedited shipping and sell for full price because they want it right now. I just sold a FootJoy raincoat and the gentleman asked, do you have expedited shipping? And I said, how about $25 extra and I'll overnight it to you? And he said, okay. And the extra shipping was only like $16 more. So I made more money on the expedited shipping option. For him, he's not price sensitive. He's looking for what he wants as soon as possible. And so that's a good demographic versus if you guys are selling this stuff that I'm selling right now from the wholesale lot I got earlier, like it's extremely, somebody who's looking for a $5 phone case, I bet you that from the 60 or 70 items I'm gonna list, I will get one negative feedback because people who shop in the under $10 category are extremely picky because maybe their money doesn't go as far and they're really specific on what they need. So if they get this and it's not exactly what they're expecting, they're likely to file the return, ask for a refund. They'll for sure leave a feedback, good or bad. But when you get more expensive items like that FootJoy jacket, the guy got the next day, he didn't leave me a feedback or a thank you or anything. So he just bought it, paid for the overnight shipping, and was good with it. So if you think about who you want to sell to, that also makes it easier. Golf clubs are really good. Any high-end electronics sell really fast because the people who buy that kind of stuff want it right now, and for them, time is money. So just something interesting. They're talking about collectibles right now. I find the same thing with collectibles. The higher I price, almost the more activity because people are, if it's a one-off item, you want to price high with best offer, in my opinion, because it gives more perceived value. And I listed a World War II pin for $500 because I didn't know what to list it for, and I actually accepted an offer of $60 because I got it for $1 at a garage sale. I don't know what it's worth. So this is very interesting on offering 3 or more because I sell a lot of Pokemon cards that are identical. I wonder if I can offer, and Pokemon cards is one thing that doesn't increase that much for combined shipping. So I think baseball cards is what they're talking about here.
Absolutely right point. So we've heard this time and time again from our collectible sellers saying that, hey, I sell one-of-a-kind items, so this doesn't apply to me. right? That is not the case.
Wrong assumption.
It works for one-of-a-kind items. Like Leave mentioned, right? It's all about grouping the right items together, because very likely your buyers are if they just buy one from you, it doesn't mean they just stop at buying one. They'll probably buy from somebody else, right? But if by putting items in an offer, you're showing them all these other cards that you have, potentially in this case, right? You're showing them that, hey, I have not just this one baseball card, but I have 500 other baseball cards that you might be interested in. And at that point, then, you're telling the buyer that, hey, listen, if you buy so many of these from me, right, I will throw in a discount, right? So yeah, you buy one, that's fine, that's great, but I have these 500 other ones that you can choose from. If you buy, let's say, 4 from me, I'll throw an extra 10% off or 20% off. And buyers love this.
They do.
Right? Because they are going to buy from someone else anyway. It may as well be you.
May as well, right? You're here to get sales for yourself, not for other sellers, we assume. So, and parts and accessories, another huge category on eBay. And this is a category where the right promotions can be extremely effective.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot think of a job that I would need to do on my car or my motorbike that would one item.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, changing the tires, you need
at least
more than one?
2, if not 4, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Even like washing the car, I need specialist car wash liquid, wax, sponges, buckets,
Chamois cloths.
chamois, yeah. And don't get me started on changing the oil. I mean, I know with a lot of modern cars you can't do this yourself, but
No, I remember.
anymore. But some of us have older cars,
Of course.
and yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, like a lot of our shoppers, a lot of our buyers in this category are, actual end customers, in the sense that these guys are, let's say, running their own shops,
Sure.
where they use these parts on a regular basis, right?
Right.
So, for example, they may not, in a month, they might run through 5 or 10 of a certain kind of part,
Right.
just because they have customers coming in with those kinds of cars, those kinds of needs, right? So they are looking to buy in volume, right? They're looking to buy in volume. Now, what I've noticed a lot of our sellers do.
So real quick, I'm going to answer the question by Only Me, who's asking, do you think it's a good marketing idea to list something for $50,000, say like in Pokemon cards? And do you think that's a good strategy for getting traffic to your store? I do think that if you have the highest priced item and the lowest priced item, it drives traffic to your store. So for example, I have a Gucci retail bag listed, and it's like $10 including shipping, right? So it's probably the cheapest Gucci item ever. So people who search Gucci from low to high, they're gonna see my listing pop up, and that's considered an impression, right? So if I were to also list a Gucci item for $750,000, then when people search high to low, my listing would pop up either, and the curiosity would be, why is this so cheap, or why is this so high? I do think that strategy would definitely work. You can try it. I just wouldn't expect to necessarily sell that item.
And there's nothing wrong with this, right? Is that they will take, let's say it's, a certain kind of part, they will put it into a lot size of, let's say, 10 or 12, right? And say, hey, you can buy one of these from me at this price, or I have a separate listing, which is a lot of 12, and you can buy them from me at a different price, right?
Yeah, I see that.
And that's fine, and that works really well for a lot of sellers. The only challenge is that you're putting like this additional load on the buyer to say, hey, let me now calculate the effective discount that I'm getting, because you have no way of showing that, right? What they have to do is they have to kind of look at your single item and say, hey, let's say he's charging $10 for this, but he's only charging, $100 for, this pack of 12, which would otherwise have been 120. So what's the discount he's giving me? Exactly.
I have to do the math.
He has to do the math. And the last thing you want to do is make your buyers do math before they buy from you.
They hated it in school. They're not going to like it on eBay.
Exactly. So again, putting things like this in a promotion is a great way of basically getting the visibility for the item, number one, and then two, making it more obvious to the buyer that they're getting that deal, they're getting the discount, right? I would definitely recommend trying it.
I want to restore that old Mercedes in the photo. That's what I want to do. So one of the cool things about promotions, and if you've never used it, this is it's a great help for you as a seller, is you don't get set up the promotions. We provide the dashboard and the tools necessary to actually track how effective they are.
Right. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that brings us to an excellent point. We've just released the reporting capability also through our API.
Oh.
So for order discounts, we do have an API available. We know not all of our sellers work through the UI. And I think just last week we released that reporting feature in the API as well.
So is this, when you say API, because some of our sellers may not know exactly what that, well, we know it's application program interface, right? But what does that offer, like the average seller who's watching right now? Will they be able to get the report easy, or do they have to make the calls to the API?
Well, they will need a client to manage all the functions that they want. But yeah, they can, there's one simple report call, API call that they can make that brings that report back to them.
Cool. And there's a dashboard. You can effectively see all the promotions you have running. You can track them, but you can also edit them from the dashboard as well. So if you notice maybe a promotion's not being very effective, rather than just end it, you can edit that promotion on the fly, correct?
That's right. That's right. And it's all the basic, promotion management features that you would expect, right, is what you could find. The thing that I do want to actually call out to a lot of our sellers, right, is very important around understanding how your promotion is doing, right? Now, we have a metric, and again, we're always working on making improvements to this, making this more usable, but we have a metric that speaks to the lift, the sales lift that we're reporting for the promotion, right? Now, typically, if as a seller you're seeing less than 10%, we look at that as basically an indication of it not being a good promotion, right? Because again, if it's a good promotion, you're going to have buyers engaging with it more. If you have buyers engaging with it more, your lift from the promotion is going to be a lot higher. So if you're not seeing that lift, it's...
So it's interesting. DJ's asking, how much does eBay charge to get a promotion offer? It's a percentage. You can set your own percentage for how much you want to pay them, and they don't charge you unless it actually sells. And then also, if you do a promotion like a 50% off sale or something, those are all free. So you can do however you want to do it for the promotion offer. But I'm going to try the single listing promotion, and I'm going to do it so you guys can see how it actually works and see if it works. I have multiple quantity items and single quantity items, so we'll see how it works for both.
Probably not a good promotion. Now, what I would always say for sellers who are doing this for the first time, who've never done promotions before, is don't start off with just one promotion, right? Because you don't exactly know what's going to work. My recommendation is to always start off with 10 or 12 promotions, right? And let them run for a while. Let them run for a good, 2.5, 3 months. Because depending obviously on how much you sell and what your volumes are, it's going to take some amount of time for you to start seeing which ones are performing better and which ones are not, right? And then what you want to do is, let's say you have 12 promotions running for 3 months. At the end of those 3 months, you will probably find 2 or 3 promotions that are doing really well, or better than the rest. Better than the rest, right? Those are the ones you want to then focus in on and keep tweaking to basically maximize, obviously your performance, your revenues, but then also the value to the buyer.
And it'll give you a better indication of...
So real quick comment on Jake's comment. Something is not that hard. Pick items that are not oversaturated that people want. So I think these promotions are really more based on items that are multi-quantity. Like if, let's say right now this wholesale order, I bought these speakers, right? Since there is only one other person selling this one item, promotions don't matter, right? All I have to do is be $1 cheaper than the other guy selling this. Not even $1. I can list it at the same price as him with better pictures, and I'll still sell it because there's only 2 available, right? You only have to win in better pictures if you both have the identical item. Most buyers are going to look at both and pick the one that displays it better. But if you're selling these headphones, the Apple headphones that are OEM, and there's 90,000 million other people selling the identical thing, then you might want to run a promotion saying like buy 2 get 1 free, buy 3 get 1 free or something. I totally agree with you though. If you're going on one-off items, Jake, you don't need to run any promotions. I know people who don't have a store, they don't have any categories, they don't do anything except for buy quality items that are more rare, and they do just fine. So this is just a video on eBay presenting how to use a promotion manager. It won't apply to you if you're just buying one-off quality items.
what your buyers want, so that when you make future promotions, it will be less about experimenting and more about targeting it right off.
Exactly. And I've heard this, from a lot of sellers, which is why I want to bring this up, is, they come back to me and say, hey, you know what, I tried promotions. I'm not quite sure that they actually worked for me. So then when you dig in a little bit further, you find out that, well, a couple of things, right? One was, the seller might have had less than 100 items to sell, right? And was typically averaging, 4 or 5 items per week, right? Now, when you're averaging 4 or 5 items per week, if you run a promotion for 3 days, you're probably not going to go from 4 or 5 to 20, right? It's probably not going to happen, right? That's, and we'll get to this in a little more detail. There's many factors in this, right? One is you probably want to get more people, more eyeballs into your items. You want to get more visibility for your items, and we'll speak to that in a bit. But you also want to make sure that you have your items curated the right way, priced the right way. Let the promotion run for a bit longer. Let it run for those 2-3 months, and then go back and look and say, what did it do for me? Right? A 3-day sale, a 3-day promotion, if you've got low volumes in terms of sales, is
This is not me. This is the video cutting out for them live.
probably not going to give you enough data to make a call one way or the other.
That makes sense. I want to make sure we get to questions. So
Absolutely.
Without rushing, let's get to the idea that the power of 2 in this case are the 2 different promotion features that you can use together.
Wow, why is it so ghetto? Just kidding. Looks like there's a little bit of a delay in their broadcast.
And Lee and I will probably tackle this together, right? So I think, I was alluding to this in my previous statement, right? We have 2 marketing tools that we've been speaking a lot about on eBay so far lately. One is Promotions Manager, which is what this webinar is about. And the other one is Promoted Listings, right? Now, even though both of those sound similar, they do 2 slightly different things.
Slightly.
Right? Well, very different things.
Very different.
So Promotions Manager drives conversion, right? The job of Promotions Manager is to help you as a seller sell more, increase your average order value, and increase your average cart size. Okay. Promoted Listings, its main purpose is to bring more shoppers to your items. Right. It gives you visibility. So visibility is the key factor for Promoted Listings. So Promoted Listings and Promotions Manager work together, right? If you're only using one of those, you're doing half the job. I keep saying this to all of our sellers, right? You want to ideally be doing both. Promoted Listings brings you the traffic. Promotions Manager helps you convert more of that traffic into sales.
It makes perfect sense. And again, I want to remind you, though, that both tools, Promoted Listings and Promotion Manager, are only available to store subscribers.
So that's right. So it's basically store subscribers. With Promoted Listings, we've added on this one additional feature, really, which is for our ETRS sellers, or our top-rated sellers.
Okay, right.
So top-rated sellers on eBay today will also have access to Promoted Listings.
But if they don't have a store, they won't have the Promotions Manager.
Exactly. So there is value in getting the store, and there's definitely value for using one of these tools. You want to basically be using both of them together.
Okay, that makes sense, right? And we should we'll have a webinar again if you haven't seen anything on Promoted Listings, specifically about that. We've talked a lot about it in the past, and Shefali has been a wonderful help with that. So if you have any questions about Promoted Listings, this team can also help as well.
No, I was just going to say, so Promoted Listings has traditionally been multi-quantity
Fixed price
items, but I think you got some good news about that.
I did. I got an email yesterday that said that it's now open for certain categories for single item. And I think the categories were, does anybody remember? I know that fashion wasn't one of them at this point. It's a rollout. But antiques and art.
What's up, Drummer? It looks like Griff literally just answered your question. Is can we promote used clothing? We cannot, but I think you can promote new with tags clothing. But let's listen and see what happens.
Business and industrial. Vintage what?
Consoles.
Vintage consoles. That's gaming, I assume, right? Categories there. Our helpful Tara behind the camera. Anyway, you will have got the email if you're a seller.
I think the biggest value in this, honestly, is a lot of our sellers, when Promoted Listings came out, they said, look, we love this concept, we love the tool.
Yeah.
But the challenge is we sell one-of-a-kind items.
Exactly, right.
So for the sellers that sold one-of-a-kind items before, promoted listings was difficult to use because you needed to be selling the same thing or multiple quantities of the same thing. But now, with this new single item availability, even sellers that are selling one-of-a-kind items can use promoted listings.
Right.
I just want to remind, because it gets a little confusing, Promotions Manager doesn't work that way. Promotions Manager, you can use one-of-a-kind items.
Yes,
right?
you
We
can.
talked about
Exactly
collectibles.
right. It's funny because I want to get to some questions, and the first question on the list is from Jesse in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was exactly this topic. What are your thoughts on applying promotions and promoted listings together? Now you have your answer.
Yeah.
They actually work really well
They
together.
work really well together, right? Again, just to remind everyone, promoted listings drives visibility, right? When you do a promoted listing, for example, you get, a higher placement in search results, right? Which means, more likely people are going to see your listing. We have additional placements on the view item page now for sponsored items. So very often you guys have probably seen, certain listings show up as sponsored listings.
Yes.
That's a promoted listing.
Oh, that's
That's a promoted listing. So once again, you're getting that additional visibility across eBay. So it's on view item, there's on like my eBay, there's a whole bunch of places where you're getting this additional visibility. Now you're getting that visibility, the visibility is driving traffic to those items. What you now need to do is to then give that incentive through Promotions Manager to help convert more of that traffic, right? And that's how these two pieces fit together.
That makes sense. We did a slide, and I'll bring it up now, free with your store subscription. This just gives you an idea how both of these work. But you don't pay anything for Promotion Manager. You only pay the percentage that you elect for promoted listings when those items actually sell. And they have to sell through someone finding them through the promoted listing, not through just the natural item that would come up in search. So
That's right.
it's a great way of controlling the cost.
That's right. So just again, to call out very, very simply, Promotions Manager is free to use. It's free. If it doesn't cost you anything, Promoted Listings also has a very, very seller-friendly, monetization,
Right.
which is sellers are only charged when the item actually sells if the buyer came through clicking on that promoted listing.
Exactly.
Right? So if the buyer found the item some other means, the seller will not be charged.
Right.
If the buyer saw the item but decided not to purchase, seller will not be charged.
Right. And you're only charged the amount that you set up when you started the promoted listing
That's
campaign.
right. That's right. So sellers have a lot of control
Yeah.
on how much they want to spend.
I love that. And we're going to create a listing now to show how this works together, the power of two, right?
Right. This is just a graphical example of what we've been talking about, right? So let's say you had a regular listing, right? It was getting, a certain number of views, let's say 100 views in this case. This is very graphically, hopefully showing what I've been speaking to so far, right? Which is when you went, the next slide, when you add on a promotion, what you've basically done is you're showing not just that one item, but you're showing additional items from your store, right?
Anything there in my size?
So additional items from your store, and it's going to allow buyers to basically shop more of your items rather than somebody else's items, right? So you're still getting that visibility. And then if you go to the next one, what you're basically seeing is when you put these in a promoted listing, you're also now driving more traffic to this, right?
Oh.
So now suddenly you're getting a lot more views, and because you're showing a lot more products, overall, the concept is that your overall conversion basically goes up.
Yeah. So that's the power of two in action. And here's a slide that shows us what?
So this is just basically showing you an example. This is just like a very pictorial example of what a sponsored listing or a promoted.
Jake, your point's really interesting because they literally called it monetization, which is a term that people use internally.
The listing looks like on search. So this is a search results page. And what you can see, this particular seller that's selling the suitcase has both a promoted listing and a promotion running on the item. So the promoted listing gets them that additional visibility in search, higher ranking in search. And if you can look at that listing, it says extra 40% off when you buy 2 or more of these items, of these suitcases.
And that's effective because I would consider buying 2 of these spinner suitcases.
A lot of people do, right? So that's actually probably an example of a very good offer because they've probably looked at their data, they've probably seen that their buyers are very often shopping for multiple suitcases, and they said, And they said, look, you know what? We'll throw in an extra deal on this if you buy two.
Right.
And that's exactly what they've done.
Perfect. So let's talk about promoting at the right time. I know this is kind of an overview of a retail calendar for important shopping dates during the year. And should we be aware of this when we're setting up promotions?
It doesn't hurt. So recently, eBay have launched a new homepage. We've got even more sort of visibility around events like 4th of July. I think there's a traffic driver event on there at the moment. So it's great to tie in the right promotions with the right retail event. So Halloween, I mean, putting up Halloween costumes at this time of year might not be as effective as it would be in October.
Right, exactly. I know last year I bought some stuff for Halloween, and it was a lot of work finding what I wanted because none of the sellers were bundling. I needed a projector, and I needed the software and the background to project these ghostly images on my windows. No, it wasn't a costume. It was actually an effect. It worked really well, but I had to work unusually hard to find all the right parts in a deal, whereas if
Also, real quick sourcing tip, guys. It looks like as far as these sales go, it's also the best time, in my opinion, to retail arbitrage shop. So if you were to plan your shopping, you're going to sell new with tags items like I'm moving towards, and just wait until these sales days and just do all your purchasing at those times, it might be a good idea because they really, really discount during those times. I'm getting really, really good deals, and I think that I might start really plotting around, for example, the Nordstrom off the rack or clear the rack sale. I've done really well at that sale, so I should just make sure that's on my calendar and just spend more of those days and less on non-sales days.
if somebody had been offering this really good but inexpensive projector and the software and the background and maybe a package deal or incentive to buy it, it would have been a lot easier for me.
So a spend offer would have been
A spend offer would have been ideal.
Yeah.
I didn't get one. I had to work.
Yeah.
But there are certain types of inventory and certain types of promotions that tie in really well with some of these retail movements. Like at the moment, 4th of July, you're going to be wanting to shop barbecues and
bunting.
Bunting,
Patriotic bunting.
yes.
We love bunting.
And exactly, right? So the other thing I think that's very important for us sellers is if you've noticed eBay over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've really become very focused on retail moments, right? And we really customize the site, we customize the shopping based on the retail time of year that it is, right? So what we're doing is we're effectively bringing buyers to the site around certain themes, right? So if we bring them back, for example, around back to school,
Sure.
those buyers are looking for a very specific kind of merchandise, right? Now, if you have that merchandise today as a seller, right, this is the right time to actually put that merchandise in a promotion.
Okay.
Because they're already coming looking for it, give them that added incentive to buy from you and not buy from somebody else.
Makes sense.
Right.
So here's a page of some resources. I'll leave this up in case you want to double check on this. This will also be available as a recorded webinar after we're live. It takes usually how long, Tara, to put it up?
Probably starting next week.
Starting next week. And on our ebay.com
Get that. You guys have to wait a full week to get this from eBay, but I'm streaming it to you 2 hours later. Ron Kerm had made a couple of comments. If you really want to show up high-end search ranking, use the one-day handling. I do that. I have the same-day handling, and I have a post office scan form on my stuff. So when my post office guy picked up my items an hour ago, he just scanned it and automatically loaded. Now I have had a couple of people message me and say that there's a bit of a delay sometimes. So they'll scan it, but it doesn't update until, let's say, 2 a.m. or something. And if that happens, you get dinged on the same day handling time. So you may want to check with your postmaster and see how that works exactly. If you're going to offer same day shipping, you definitely show up higher, because I feel like the earlier comment also that some buyers are not sensitive to price. They're more sensitive to how long it takes. That's why Amazon Prime is killing it, because you get most of your items in 2 or 3 days. So I think it's really important. If you want to offer faster shipping, that's awesome. Just make sure, like Ron says, that you can handle it and either have a local pickup every day, or if you live close to a post office, because slower shipping time definitely affects sales.
/webinar page, you can find past webinars, of which this will soon be a member. I want to get to some of the questions, and some of these I think we've answered right off, but I'm going to ask them just to remind people. So somebody, Valerie from Union City said, how many promotions should you run at a time? And I remember earlier you said as many as possible.
Right. And I would say there really isn't a physical limit. I don't know if there is, but I don't think there is a physical limit. And I would normally encourage sellers to do at least a dozen promotions if they can,
Right.
Especially if you're starting out new and you've never done this before. Run a bunch of them and run them for long enough so that you have good data to work with at the end.
And in fact, Tony M. from Irvine said to Valerie, as many as you can.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And there's also a question here that is a little hard to answer, but I think a lot of what we've said may help direct you. What is a surefire way to increase my sales? What is a great promotion? The idea of, like you said earlier, of running as many promotions as possible when you start out is so that it can help you determine what's going to work best for you. There is no cookie cutter that's going to guarantee it.
There isn't a cookie cutter way, but I would say there are some best practices that sellers can use, right? So for instance, right, if you're selling a particular item that you know people typically buy multiple of, and you'll know this, right? As a good seller that knows their business, our sellers know which items sell, typically in quantities of 2 or more. Right. We were working with a seller recently that sold air conditioners. Right now, it is summer in the U.S. and a lot of people are buying ACs. And these are like the smaller window ACs.
Yeah.
A lot of their offers were actually, a lot of their orders were actually, multiple units of the window AC. But these guys didn't have a discount on it in any way. There was no kind of promotion on this. So we recommended. We said, hey, listen. Your average order size for these ACs appears to be about 1.3, 1.4. What if you did a buy two get one, buy two get 10% off? And the seller was willing to try it. They tried it, and they saw that average order value jump from 1.4 to almost 1.8. Right, which is a pretty significant jump. Yes, right. So we've seen those kinds of things happen. So if you have single items, you might want to try and do a quantity-based offer, like a buy X number of units and get X percentage off or X dollar value off. But if you want to do it more broadly on a category, that's when you want to probably try and use a spend offer, right? So, for example, if you're doing this on, let's say on baby items, right? When for anyone that's shopped for baby items, you typically don't just buy one thing. Especially if you're a new parent, you have no idea what all you need, so you end up buying more than you probably need. And so it's more like, hey, I'm going to be buying these 5 things. I'm probably going to spend a couple of $100. But that's when you throw in an offer and say, hey, you know what? I notice a lot of my buyers are spending, $250 when they buy baby items. Maybe I need to incentivize them to spend a little bit more. Yeah, and that's where you can say, hey, spend $300 and I'll throw in, 5% or 10% or something like that. Right? Get them to spend a little bit more.
I think a lot of the questions that came in earlier we've already answered, but I'll bring them up again.
Sure.
So, for example, Mark Shapiro asks, I would like an offer to offer an accessory item for sale with a primary item, since the shipping cost to ship both items is much lower. I could offer a discount when the 2 items are purchased together. Does eBay have a way to do this? And the answer is yes. Through Promotions Manager.
Right, and I think there's a very simple way of doing this, right? When you think of accessories, I've seen one seller do this really, really well. They've had incredible success with laptops. So what they've done is they had I think 5 different kinds of laptops, and they were all priced between $700 and $800. Yeah, right. And what they sold along with the laptops was so they basically sold things like a mouse. And they sold an extra keyboard, and they sold a couple of more things. And so typically what people were doing was they were buying, one laptop, right? And spending about $700 to $800. And these additional accessories were anywhere from about $50 to about maybe $75. And so what these guys said was, hey, listen, you're already spending $800. If you spend, let's say, $900 or $1,000, I will give you X percentage off. Right? So now as a buyer, you're saying, oh, great, I'm buying this laptop. I know I need to buy a mouse at some point. I probably need to buy a mouse pad or whatever else, like a couple of memory sticks, right? This is a great place for me to buy them, because if I buy all of this together, I will get a discount. So that's the way you would try and do this accessory, this bundling kind of discount. Makes sense.
And let's just I know we kind of covered this, but Mark asked, Mark from New Jersey, when it comes to promoting unique one-of-a-kind items, what is the most important criteria one should use to decide to promote or not? So you've got a whole line of one-of-a-kind items. And earlier we talked about collectibles, and if you have a baseball card, it makes sense, more baseball cards. But you're kind of in a situation like this where it's not, they're very different items. You still have to sort of think like a buyer, correct? And think, what would if you were buying these items, what would appeal to you?
That's right. You know, there are some kinds of items in collectibles that lend themselves to being quantity-based offer types, right? Which is like baseball cards, right? Very likely, if I'm buying one, I might be inclined to buy 2 or 3 baseball cards. So that's where you could do, you know, buy 3 of these and get 10% off, right? So that's a quantity-based offer, but that's because they're the same or similar kinds of items. Now, if it's not the same kind of items, but it's like more of a general set or general category of items. So take another example in collectibles, knickknacks, random knickknacks, right?
Just random
Knickknacks, which you have, you know, let's say price points anywhere from, you know, so let's take an example, $20 to $50, right?
Okay.
Right? In that case, you might say, hey, you know what? Spend $100 with me, and then get you know, 10% off or 20% off. And then that way, a buyer can do mix and matching, right? So they can find, you know, a couple of these small knickknacks for $20, these for 30, these for 40, combine them all together and say, oh, great, now I've reached that threshold, right, I will actually get this discount.
Plus, you could also, in this particular example, and it's the reason why I brought it up, is use themes. So, for example, if you have animal knickknacks, absolutely, people may collect those. Or if you have little porcelain figurines of little kids like Hummels, everyone knows how I feel about those. You would group those together. So sometimes the best place to start, even with unique items, is within those subcategories.
Absolutely. And so again, came back to something that Leaf mentioned. I think it's so important. Like curation is absolutely essential.
Curation,
right?
Exactly.
So you want to try and have, if you're a buyer, right, and you go to a store and you know you see items that are related, you are much more likely to engage with that thing than if you saw one of this and one of that and nothing actually made any sense. You'd be like, hey, this is just a badly managed store.
Somebody asked, can I put my whole store on promotion, or am I limited to 500 listings? Not sure this is the right, you're thinking of this correctly, but just so we're clear about this, is there a limit to how many items can be in a promotion?
So when you create your promotion, you have a couple of options about how you want to, how you choose which inventory is going to go in.
Yeah.
And if you're going item by item by item, then there is a limit of 500 items to pick at any one time. But there's another option, which is rules. And if you choose to pick your inventory by eBay category or store category or all inventory, then there's no limit on that.
All right, so if she's saying I want to put my whole inventory on promotion, then there's no limit to 500.
No, she can absolutely do that. The challenge again is, like we were just speaking, right, is about curation, right? If she sells in only one category, let's say she sells only in women's athletic shoes, right? And her entire store of 5,000 items is only athletic shoes, and she puts all of those into one offer. That's absolutely fine. But if she sells women's shoes and men's shoes and sneakers and boots, and you know,
better to have separate
ones, because that's when you will actually see more engagement from buyers, right? It's always an easy thing to say, hey, I'm just going to do one of these and I'm done, but you're actually not doing yourself a favor by doing that.
I see. Okay, we're almost out of time. I'm not calling time. That's up to our producers. Our producers will 2 more minutes. Oh, great! So we can take some more questions. Thanks. So let's see, because we've answered so many of these right off. Again, questions. I understand questions like which promotion brings in the great.
All right, guys. Let me stop the screen share. What's up, guys? So I am going to jump off right now, and I'm actually going to go back live again with Prof Sales, because we're going to talk about what numbers to keep track of. I'm kind of better today with live videos. I apologize, but all my listing was super easy to do. So anyway, I'm jumping back on about 5 minutes with Jason, Prof Sales, to talk about what numbers we want to keep track of. So if you guys could appreciate or could help me out, hit the like button. And if you want to stick around, but I recommend you probably go list some stuff instead of listening to me. See you guys.